Welcome to Your City at Work. I'm your host, Elisa Hines. Oklahoma weather can go from clear blue skies to dangerous storms very quickly, so it pays to be weather aware. The City of Stillwater's Emergency Management Department takes weather safety very seriously. Earlier, I sat down with Emergency Management Director Rob Hill to discuss what his team does to help Stillwater residents be weather aware when the storm approaches. So Rob, as the Director of Stillwater Emergency Management, you've probably seen a lot of emergency situations. So what is it that Stillwater Emergency Management does?
So if we had to boil it down to its two primary responsibilities, one is to ensure that the City of Stillwater, the city government of Stillwater, is prepared for any and all disasters. Primary focus is on natural disasters, but man-made disasters included. The second is just as important, and many times the lines are really blurred, but it's to make sure that the public is aware of those disasters and how to respond to those disasters as well.
Okay. Now, we all know Oklahoma weather can be unruly at times.
Right.
Most of the time. So how does Stillwater Emergency Management help Stillwater residents get prepared for Oklahoma weather?
So in the springtime of each year, we get lots of requests to go out and do presentations, right? Those presentations can be anything on what has happened to Stillwater, what natural disasters can impact Stillwater, and how they can be prepared. Most people want to know about how they can be prepared in their business, at their home, what to do if they're at work and their children are at home by themselves. So we talk a lot about planning and how to be aware, how to find information, how to get information. We also share with them the outlets that we have for information, such as social media, our mass notification system, and actually what the storm sirens in town do. So we visit with the community, and then we put out PSAs through your office and try to just remind everybody that, what time of year we're in, what type of weather we can experience, and what to do as a result.
Yeah. It definitely pays to be prepared.
It does.
Now, one of the tools that you use is called Be Informed Stillwater. Talk a little bit about that.
So Be Informed Stillwater is our name for our mass notification system. We have the ability for individuals to sign up. It's all voluntary. We don't force people into signing up. You can sign up, and then you can receive weather notifications for, I think, about 9 different types of weather situations, and those are automatic. So the National Weather Service issues the watch or the warning, and if you've signed up to receive that, you get that on your phone, and you can receive it as a text, a phone call, or an email. And a lot of it is automated, but we also have the ability to send out emergency management notifications. We use it for all clears after the storm sirens have been activated to let people know that whatever threat was occurring has passed. So, and I believe when I looked, there was about 800 people that were signed up for that service.
Oh, that's a low number.
It's a pretty low number for a population of about 50,000. But when you look at it and you say, okay, and of 50,000, let's say half of them are old enough to have a phone. And then you say that half of those people are over the age of 18, right? Because most kids don't care about getting mass notifications from a city. The number is still low, but it actually comes more in line when you start to break down the demographics of the age of the person that would want to receive the notification. So.
But we would love to see everybody sign up for it.
Everybody, absolutely. We actually figured that we needed about 20,000 people to be signed up for the system to be able to get those notifications.
Okay. So now Stillwater does have the outdoor siren system. Talk a little bit about what it is, the fact that we also test it, so we need to let people know what to expect.
Absolutely. So there are 56 storm sirens in our system, and that's quite a few for a community our size. We're very fortunate to have that many. There's 2 at Lake Carl Blackwell, and then 1 at Lake McMurtry, and then the rest are in town and on the OSU campus. The first Tuesday of every month at 11:30, we attempt to test those storm sirens. And one of the things that we do is we actually use the sound that we would use in an emergency, so people understand what it is, and they know what the sound sounds like. If the weather is overcast, or if we've had weather the night before and people are a little edgy, we will roll over to the next Thursday. So we just flip Tuesdays, Thursdays until we can get that test in. There's been times where it's been a whole month and we can't test, right? So, and then there's other times where we'll test on a Thursday, and we'll get calls. Hey, what is that? You know, we weren't expecting that. We thought you did that on the first Tuesday. But most of the people that know that we test on the first Tuesday of the month, we put it on social media every time we're going to test so that people can actually go and check and see, is this a test or is this something real? But it's a steady 3-minute tone. Actually runs for about 2 minutes, 56 seconds, but it's a steady 3-minute tone. And that's our test. If it's a real emergency, same tone, we just follow it up with a verbal announcement that says tornado warning.
So people can actually hear your voice or somebody else's voice come over the system.
That's right. That's right. So it's a way of authenticating the warning, right? So if you hear a storm siren go off in the middle of the night and you just hear the one and you don't hear the tornado warning or something, it could be a malfunction, it could be something's wrong or something like that. So we just encourage people to contact us and let us know. Most of the time, you know, people will call 911 and we'll find out that way. But we always encourage people during testing times, if they don't hear it, to call us. But there's a caveat. You're supposed to be outdoors. They are outdoor warning systems. So if you're in your house, if you're in your place of business, you're not supposed to be able to hear them indoors. Construction is a lot better, insulation's a lot better, there's new building techniques that have been implemented, and those prevent us from being able to, the storm sirens, to penetrate those structures. So it's meant for people outdoors. The next question we get asked is, okay, then why do you do it at nighttime? So it's a tool, and we use every tool in the toolbox to warn the community that there's a life-threatening emergency that is occurring. In this case, it's a tornado, or the threat of a tornado. And in the springtime, there are people that choose to exercise at night. There are people that work different shifts that could be outside. We have our own city staff that alternates when the weather warms up and stuff, and they'll work at night sometimes to be less intrusive during the daytime. So we just use every tool in the toolbox. So storm sirens happen to be one of them.
And you have people at lakes that are out camping.
We do, and the audio version, or the ability to speak, is very important, right? Because a lot of times at the area lakes, we will make an announcement over those storm sirens before we ever activate them in town, because we need people that are most vulnerable. For example, campers, you know, against high winds or hail, people that are staying in tents, people that are in boats on area lakes and stuff. They need more time to respond to an impending threat. So we will a lot of times make a verbal announcement over those storm sirens to let them know that they need to take shelter or begin the process of taking cover for an impending threat.
Okay. Now, after the storm has passed, how do people know to come out of their hidey holes?
Okay.
Because I've heard that we do not have an all-clear siren.
We don't. We do not activate. There are lots of different tones that our storm sirens can make, but we feel that in a stressful environment that it can be confusing. Somebody may hear it wrong, and we don't want somebody to accidentally come out during an event and threaten their life. So what we do is we make a verbal announcement over the storm sirens, just a verbal announcement to let everybody know that this is the all clear. We also use our mass notification system that we talked about earlier to let people know that it's an all clear. We put it out on social media that there's an all clear, and those are the ways that we convey that.
So it really pays to sign up for some of these things.
Absolutely, especially to be informed Stillwater.
Right.
Yeah, we push a lot of information through that.
Okay. Now, Stillwater Management also utilizes volunteers during
We do.
emergency situations. Talk a little bit about what it is to be a volunteer and how somebody might be able to volunteer.
So right now on our roster, we have 20 persons that are volunteers in the community, right? We prefer that they're at least 18 years of age. That way they're adults. We have in the past had some people that were under the age of 18, but they came with their parents, so we got their parents' signature. But it's not like it used to be. It used to be where if you just had an interest and you wanted to come in, you could come in and just sign up, and we could find different tasks for you to do, and you could storm spot, work special events, stand on a barricade during an event, that type of stuff, be called into service. But with the types of responses, the magnitude of the responses, and all the different aspects, one of the things that we do is those spotters and volunteers, and we call them specialists. We call them EM specialists. They actually train along beside us, staff. They go to the classes that we go to. They have all their ICS classes or their incident command structure classes. They have their National Incident Management System classes. And we have about 4 that we've established that they have to have before they can be onboarded. And it's ICS 100, 200, 700. And then we have one traffic control class. And they take those classes, they come on board, and then we send them to additional classes. They'll go to storm spotter classes, they'll go to traffic management classes, they'll go to wildfire interface classes to learn how to do staging for the fire department and stuff on large events and stuff. So they volunteer, but they volunteer an exceptional amount of time. So to find those people that are interested, that have the time to dedicate to our program, is pretty few and far between because of the expectation.
Right. Now, why do we use the volunteers?
We use volunteers to augment staff because there's not enough of us to go around. So it's like with any group, you kind of have, sometimes you have the 90-10 rule, you have the 80-20 rule where a lot of times you'll only get 20% of the group to show up. So, for example, storm spotters, we'll have 10 teams, but maybe because of work or family or illness or vacation time or stuff like that, we may only have 2 or 3 groups that can go out. So the more we have, the more we can pull from. So sometimes we get really stretched, really thin, but the ones that we have are very well trained, and they can usually compensate for the lack of response.
So every hand we can get helps.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, speaking of the storm spotters, we also have something that will help after an emergency, and that's where we register our storm shelters?
Absolutely. So actually we prefer people to do it pre-emergency, but so we do have a storm shelter registration. It's available on the website, stillwater.org. You can go in, you can type in the search bar, storm shelter registration, and it'll pull you up to a web page, and you simply add your address, you verify it on the map, make sure it's correct, you add a few things, your name, your address, and some contact information. It goes into a database, and then we use that on ArcGIS on the backside, so that if we do have a disaster, once our volunteers are through storm spotting, they come back in, they start to do disaster assessments. We find the edges of the impact, and we can overlay the storm shelter so that we know that if there is somebody in that area in a storm shelter where there's damage, and we get a contact that, hey, we haven't heard from them, or they're trapped or something like that, we can go right there, and we know where their storm shelter is located based on the information that they provide, whether it's in the house or the garage, if it's out in the backyard, front yard, wherever it may be. We know where to look when we get there, when first responders get there.
So it's really important to have your shelter registered with the City of Stillwater so that you can go in an emergency and find these people.
That's right.
If need be.
So we don't go out after each emergency and make sure that everybody's okay in those storm shelters. There has to be a call generated or a need generated that we would need to go out and double check to make sure, because a lot of times people will be in a safe room inside their house and their house has damage, but they're more than able to get out. There's no need for us to go and to check their shelter. So there's usually something that prompts us to go to that location to check to make sure they got out.
Okay.
So with that, I might add that when people create their family plans or their plans for their home, that they share it with their neighbors, that they share it with somebody across town, that they share it with somebody out of state. and that after an event happens, those are their immediate contacts to let them know that, hey, we're okay. So if somebody doesn't get it, then they know to call us to let us know that there's something possibly wrong.
Right. Anything we can do to find our citizens.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the one most important takeaway from emergency management is we want everybody to have a NOAA weather radio. I wish I had brought one today to show you, but they're relatively cheap, and you can find them in any retailer that sells electronics. But they're easy to program now. You just simply select your options that you want. I will say that I don't know why people would want to do this, but some people ask us how to turn the tornado warnings off. But you cannot turn the tornado warning off. But we do encourage people to receive at least 2 types of warnings. One is a severe thunderstorm warning, because most tornadoes come out of those types of warnings, and of course the tornado warning to take precautions.
And the sirens on those only go off if it's something in your area, correct?
In your county.
In your
county, yeah. So real quick, if let's say Cushing's located in the southeast part of Payne County, and let's say that there was a tornado warning that was issued and it actually included I-35. The entire county is going to go off, right? So everybody that gets a tornado warning for Payne County is going to be activated. Now here's the benefit. A lot of people think, why do I need that? I only want them where they're really going to impact me. Well, our county is so small that you could technically drive from one side of the county to the other and potentially drive into an emergency or a tornado threat. And with that NOAA weather radio telling you that there is a threat, it also tells you where that threat is located. So it alerts you with an audible alert, and then it gives you the ability to have a voice prompt if you choose, and they will tell you what the threat is, where it's located. So if you're out and about, you can avoid that area. Those are important. The wireless emergency alerts we get on our phone, they're getting better all the time. Sometimes they're still delayed, because systems get overwhelmed, but and then obviously mass notification systems.
And our weather system here in Oklahoma is really pretty good, the weather alert system, because we have the place in Norman.
National Weather Service in Norman.
National Weather Service,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
That is alerting us, and for the most part, we get a lot of the notifications 15, 20 minutes ahead of time. Not always the case.
Not always, but yeah, most of the time we do have enough of a leadway that we can get people to shelter. Right. We can warn them, notify them that there's an impending threat, and get them to shelter. Now, there's sometimes where it just develops right over the top of you and you have seconds versus minutes. But we are in contact with the National Weather Service. We participate in one of their programs that allows us to chat through texting with the forecasters so that we can see their thoughts. We can see what types of warnings they may be fixing to issue. And they will actually put in there, thinking about tornado warning for Payne County. Or they'll tell you tornado warnings coming for Payne County several seconds before it happens. And the news media is in there too, so they're championing that cause and spreading that message as well. Couple of thoughts about media. The news media are primarily focused on their area, right? So Oklahoma City. So we practice a Stillwater first mentality, so that when we have severe weather, our weather that we report out on our social media sites and everything is for Stillwater, right? So when we work with our partners and stuff, it's all about Stillwater information. It's not about the Oklahoma City metro area. It's not about Tulsa or anything like that, right? So it is Stillwater first. The other thing that we do is we recommend that people have multiple apps, multiple ways to receive notifications, right? Maybe somebody's app is down today and you don't know that. And if you have another app that can provide you the same type of information, it's always good. We have 4 or 5 ourselves in our office that we use. Even though we're getting our own warnings and we're in touch with the weather service and stuff, we still receive warnings from additional apps. One of the biggest things that I can tell you that is a plus for us is that we've partnered with Team Radio, Triple Play Sports. We've partnered with them. They have a quasi studio downstairs across the hall from what we call our radar room or incident operations, and they will come in just like staff. They will stand up their abilities to override their local radio, and they will actually provide that information that is coming right out of our radio room, or our radar room from our storm spotters to staff, and they will put that over the radio for themselves.
Now, team radio, what station is that?
There's several, 105.1, 105.1, 93.1, and there's a couple AMs and I don't remember off the top of my head. But those are the ones that we ask people to listen to. 93.1 is local, and it's very penetrating in Stillwater, so homes, businesses, and stuff can receive it very well. 105.1 if you live outside of town just a little bit and you want to know what we're doing. Those are very good channels to listen to monitor, and they share information that is directly coming from emergency management staff to the community. And then they will also update on tornado warnings, thunderstorm warnings, and the threats that go with those. Winds over 60 miles an hour, 1 inch or greater hail, and so forth. So you can, and then they also do all clears over the radio for us as well.
Okay. And what people probably need to know is, just like the press in the city is keeping an eye on the weather, you're here at the City of Stillwater keeping an eye on the weather too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So on weather days, we monitor the weather in several different ways. One is through email that we get from the National Weather Service meteorologists. 2 is through their web page. And then 3 is through the Storm Prediction Center. So we're constantly reading, checking up. So they update it first thing in the morning, late in the morning, just before noon, and then early afternoon. And then if we haven't got to severe weather yet, they'll update it one more time that evening so that we can know what to expect. And then we know what to anticipate when the storms start to move in.
Now, if somebody wants to follow you on social media, what is your Facebook?
At STW SEMA. So at basically Stillwater SEMA.
Okay.
And that's our handle across all platforms. So we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, and we're on Facebook.
Okay, so people can follow you just about anywhere.
Absolutely. And I would say that on social media, we do a lot of preemptive, so as things are coming, but once we get involved with the weather, when we are actually engaged with storm spotters in the field, receiving information, trying to make determinations of whether or not we're going to activate emergency systems and stuff, we encourage people at that time, they need to be following the weather either on TV or at their favorite weather source. Maybe it's an app, maybe even just listening to our partners on Triple Play Sports, listening to those channels, because we are engaged in actual life-saving emergency or life-saving events. And we don't want to take away from that to try to update social media. Right. We do have some automated stuff that comes from a system downstairs that will go out and update Twitter and Facebook, but it's all automated, and it's preempted as automated.
So really the social media is more of a pre-weather event, and then after that they need to switch to something.
Yeah,
okay,
so we have pre and post is how we do it. And then again, we do have an automated system that keeps updating those sites during the event, but it is automated.
So it may be a little bit of delay there. It's not going to be something that's pertinent right at the moment.
It'll be pertinent. But there won't. If you post a question or if you ask us something, there may not be somebody to respond immediately. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. We try to keep our citizens informed, and
we do.
And it's a wonderful system. Is there anything else we need to know weather-related?
Weather-related? When we start to get into the springtime, we really encourage people to follow the weather, really watch the weather of a morning. One of the best things that social media does is you can either follow those news media outlets, because they do have a big benefit. They're sharing what can happen later that day. So if you will follow them, or at least if you're not up in that time of the day, you can always go to their social media sites, or you can go to their webpage and at least see what the weather was when they forecasted it that morning. At least watch it at noon so you can see what updates, and then usually at 4 and 4:30 of the afternoon, they'll update again. And we highly encourage people that they watch those, or at least have access to those, because in the springtime we get into our outdoor sports. We'll get into softball and baseball, and there's all kinds of events. Even swimming starts to happen. So lightning is a big issue. So if you know that you're going to expect thunderstorms later, lightning will clear most events first before the severe weather gets there. But if you're there and all of a sudden you see a storm cloud roll up, you don't want that to be unexpected. You want to know that, hey, we're expecting that, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to stop doing what we're doing, and we're going to go and do something different indoors.
So it always just pays to keep an eye on the weather.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now we do it for you, and we try to keep social media updated in all of our platforms, but sometimes we get busy doing our job too, so we just encourage people to stay busy or stay informed.
And I definitely appreciate getting the emails that come across and following on social media, because I do like to stay aware, and you all do a great job in keeping our residents informed.
Well,
Rob, thank you so much for being.
Thank you. I appreciate it.